we all, everyone that's going to be joining us, can make a difference here. And so just a little bit of background for everybody tuning in. My name's Scott Budnick. I am the executive producer of the film Just Mercy. Before that, executive producer of many comedies, including the Hangover series, and very, very passionate about criminal justice reform, and really believe strongly that all of us can come together to stop injustice from happening.
Yeah.
And I think in this case, Cece, I think we all can make such a huge difference. And I want to use this time to motivate everybody who's joining us to get deeply involved, because I think we can actually stop an injustice from happening. For background, I ended up on Just Mercy being invited to Oklahoma to screen the film for the Oklahoma City Thunder basketball team. Mm-hmm. I'd never been to Oklahoma in my life. And I went, met some of the most incredible people. It was really different because Cece, I knew that Oklahoma was the largest incarcerator in the world, the largest incarcerator in this country. And so I didn't know what to expect. And when I went to the Thunder game and I met a lot of the folks, I had all of these fairly conservative folks wanting to talk about criminal justice reform. And ended up doing a screening for the basketball team for the Thunder. And ultimately have had outreach. The governor went and saw a screening that I know you were at. The parole board came and showed up to see the film. Massive faith engagement, pastors, etc. And it was through all of this, Cece, that I heard from both Jason Flom and Kim Kardashian for the first time about Julius Jones. And when Jason and Kim mentioned to me about Julius, I'd never known, so I researched the case. And right away, both of them said, you need to meet Cece Jones-Davis. And it brought me to the extraordinary person that you are. Mm-hmm. And I would love to just start there, Cece. Tell us about the Julius Jones case. When I heard about it, my jaw dropped to hear the injustice of it. And also tell us about your journey and how you came to find out about Julius and how you got involved.
Yeah, for sure. So I found out about Julius in August, it was about August 2018. Miss Viola Davis and her husband, Julius Tenen, produced a docuseries about Julius called The Last Offense. And, I live in Oklahoma. I stumbled on the story. It's 3 parts. And I was just shook to my core, like anyone else who would watch The Last Offense. I was so shook by what I saw that I just decided I needed to do something, and we can talk more about my involvement later. But the things that really haunted me and still haunt me today about Julius' story that are highlighted in the case, in the docuseries, are things like he had a ineffective counsel. Julius Jones was a 19-year-old man, young man, in 1999, who was convicted of the murder of a prominent business owner from the suburbs of Oklahoma City. It was a terrible, terrible crime, 100%, no doubt. But the problems around Julius being on trial really started out with him just having a really ineffective counsel. He had a lawyer who his family thought was a good lawyer, but right before they went to trial, the lawyer died. And so the public defender's office appointed a group of lawyers who at the time, the head of the public defender's office did not realize that these attorneys did not have any death penalty case experience. One, we come to find out, the young woman on the case had recently just passed the bar exam before she was asked to join the team. And they just did not know what they were doing. They did not offer Julius a defense. Matter of fact, after the prosecution side gave their spiel and rested, the defense simply rested. That means they did
No
not,
defense.
they did nothing. They did not present a defense at all. And so Julius's life from the beginning of this was really hanging in the balance, and the folks who were responsible for helping him were really ill prepared. So that's the really first thing that you see when you watch The Last Defense, that, wow, there's a lot of people in our country. It's not just Julius. There's a lot of people in our country who cannot afford private counsel, have to depend on public defenders' offices, and they're great lawyers, but they are underfunded, they're overworked, they have too many cases. It's just in a lot of places, it's just a mess, and there's no way for people to keep up. Yeah.
You know what struck me? Like, I think the fact about the lawyers and him having incompetent counsel when he's facing the death penalty is egregious.
Yeah.
But when I heard the amount of racial bias that permeated this case, when I heard that a police officer took off his handcuffs and said, "Run right now, N-word, so I can kill you and get this over with."
Yeah.
When a juror in the case says during jury deliberations, like, "Let's take this N-word out behind the courthouse and kill him right now," and that's brought to the judge's attention, and that juror is not removed from the case, and that juror ends up voting for death. And you can imagine how that juror tainted the entire jury pool with those types of disgusting racist comments.
Right.
Add on top of that, that the prosecution took every black juror off the jury but one, and it was not a jury of Julius's peers.
Right.
He had an alibi, right?
Yep.
Like, none of this was presented.
None of this was
None of it. And Cece, what gets me is that if someone commits a murder, there's signs leading up to it. I mean, he had 20, whatever, how many years of life where he never was arrested for a violent crime. He had some petty theft when he was young, but like no violence before this. Has been in prison for 21 years maintaining his innocence.
Yeah. And what I think
in prison.
What I think is also really important for people to know as a backdrop to like who Julius Jones is, you know, this is a man who comes from, he doesn't fit a stereotype, you know, like so many people fall into, you know, a lot of trouble because they fit a particular stereotype. Julius Jones comes from a 2-family household with hardworking middle-class folks. Julius Jones was a star basketball player in high school. He graduated at the top 10 of his class, his high school class. He got a full ride. He got a full academic scholarship, not a sports scholarship, an academic scholarship to the University of Oklahoma. I mean, this young man, he wasn't perfect, but this young man had a strong support system. He had a lot to look forward to. And so this kind of thing just did not make, you know, any sense. Along with that, all the things that you just said, Scott, you know, there was a photo that the court never saw. There was a photo of Julius Jones taken 9 days before the crime. He had been, he got stopped by the police for a traffic violation. And they took him downtown, took a picture. And that photo shows that he did not fit the witness description. The witness said that the assailant was an African-American man with a red bandana across his face with an inch or half an inch of hair hanging from underneath a skull cap. Julius Jones had maybe less hair on his head as you have right now. And so how in the world does his hair grow to hang enough to hang from underneath a cap 9 days after an official photo was taken? That photo never made it to court. So there's so many ways in which this young man's situation, his life fell through the cracks. And what we're trying now is to resurrect him. What we're trying to do now is bring him back to life, is restore him, restore his family, because this should have never, ever happened to him.
Cece, you mentioned the family, and I think one of the most impactful days with me is when you brought his family on Zoom, and I got to meet his mom and his father and his brother and Antoinette, his sister.
Yeah.
Such an unbelievable family and such heartbreak that they've had to go through for these 21 years, knowing their son was innocent.
Yeah.
Let's also not forget the family of the victim, because the heartbreak that they had to go through losing their father. And the heartbreak that the person who committed that crime is still free, is still on
That's
the
right.
loose. And there's
That's
someone
right.
who did not commit that atrocious crime sitting in prison on death row for 21 years. Cece,
That's right.
why now is the time? Why is it urgent right now that all of the people listening to this join this campaign? Is the clock ticking? What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, so Julius, again, has been on Oklahoma's death row for 21 years now, I believe. And the state of Oklahoma placed a hold or a moratorium on executions in 2015 because there was a botched execution. And I can say a whole lot about that, but we don't have a lot of time. But in February of this year, the state announced that they would resume executions and that their goal was to resume them before the end of this year. We don't have the exact timing, but we do have the exact intention, right? The state does intend to resume executions. And so Julius Jones's life, like never before, is hanging in the balance. And what we want to do is raise as much awareness right now, do as much as we can right now before he gets an execution date. Because what we have learned from watching stories like Rodney Reed and Nate Woods and so many other people around the country is that once somebody gets an execution date in this country, it is like a freight train. It is really, really difficult to stop. And so we want people to know about Julius right now. We want people to sign the petition. We want people to go to the website, justiceforjulius.com, and take all the action steps. Watch the docuseries there. Sign the change.org petition. Send a letter to the governor and the Pardon and Parole Board, because that kind of advocacy and effort is needed on this side of an execution date in order for us to do our best to save him.
You know, it just, as you were saying that, I saw a great organization in California join, Brown Issues. And it made me think it's like our Latino brothers and sisters that are advocating. This case is so egregious, and this was such an unfair trial. This is not a black thing, a brown thing, a white thing, a Republican thing, a Democrat thing. This is anyone who's a human, who cares about justice and fairness, and a human being who is wrongfully incarcerated, like Julius Jones, his family. This is everyone's thing. And I really saw, like, through Just Mercy, I saw how that film brought everybody together, right? Bryan Stevenson, one of the heroes of the criminal justice reform movement, one of my heroes, fighting for Walter McMillan, an innocent man on death row. And it was just incredible going out and doing screenings and having the National Association of Evangelicals at the table, and Prison Fellowship, and Right on Crime, and people of all faiths coming together for justice.
Right.
And I'd love to kind of get an understanding of where this campaign is today, what's going on, update us as to where we are right now.
Yeah. So I have to say, Scott, first of all, really, thank you, because I feel like it was really divine that that you came along and brought us Just Mercy. A lot of us would not still know about the life of Bryan Stevenson or Mr. McMillan and all of the things that have transpired had it not been for that inspirational movie. So thank you. And I think that it's, we did several screenings of Just Mercy here throughout Oklahoma because we knew that this story really kind of highlighted not just Mr. McMillan's, but it also highlights so many people's stories that are, and have been involved in the criminal justice system and been wrongly convicted. We knew that it had so many parallels with Julius Jones's story, and we wanted people to see and engage this. This is a real life story, and so thank you for that, because I thought that was really helpful. And since Just Mercy came out, and since you and Jason, Flom, and Kim Kardashian and others have heard about Julius, you guys have really helped take this to the next level. Since Represent Justice came on board to learn about Julius and really build a next level team around the advocacy efforts, man, this has gone from a very, very grassroots effort, and it still is, but it has shot up a few a few feet, and we are just extremely grateful because what it takes is everyday people like stopping to pay attention. I did not have a background, for example, in criminal justice reform. I'm just a person who saw the last defense. I'm just a person who saw just mercy and said, I can't live in a state. And there might be a man here in our midst who could be killed wrongfully. I can't function and know that something like that is going on. And so it takes everyday people to step in and make the road by walking. We have to just take one step, learn the next thing, contact the next person, email the next person until we get to where we are today, which is with Represent Justice and you and so many others. And so, it's really it's like a dream. It's a prayer answer, particularly for obviously Julius and his family, but it's a prayer answered for people like me, advocates like me, other folks who are advocating for Julius, and we can't say enough. And so we intend for something beautiful to come of all of this. We know that the governor of Oklahoma has, already done so many great things in terms of criminal justice reform. I personally don't think you can adequately say anybody, any state, anybody, anywhere has adequately done criminal justice reform if we have not looked into the deepest and darkest corner of our criminal justice system, and that is death row. And so that's what's next. That's what we have to do, and that's what we plan to do here in Oklahoma.
It's incredible. It's really amazing to see a lot of the folks with enormous platforms come on. Like, I know, Cece, when you met Kim, just to see her heart, how much she cares, how much she's willing to use her platform and even take some of the haters and whatever it happens, what she's willing to do to fight for justice. Jason Flom, who introduced me to you, former head of Atlantic Records, Virgin Records, Capitol Records, using his platform. He just actually had Kim on his podcast the other day,
right?
Wrongful Convictions, to talk about Julius, which was an incredible episode. And just seeing the athletes that are coming forward, the pastors that are coming forward, it really gives me a lot of hope.
Me too. Me
Cece,
too.
I know we don't have much time. Tell everybody that's watching right now, what can they do right now to help?
Okay. So first of all, if there are folks out there who have questions, go ahead and write out your questions in the comments. And there are advocates out there that will either answer your question or me or Scott will come later on and answer. So thank you guys for joining again. But here's what you guys can do. You can go to www.justiceforjulius.com, and there you can watch the docuseries that's gotten a lot of us mobilized around this. It's called The Last Defense, produced by Viola Davis and Julius Tenen. You can sign the change.org petition on that website. You can send a letter of support to the governor of Oklahoma and the Pardon and Parole Board from that website. You can follow us on all our social media platforms. So on Instagram, we're Justice for Julius. So go over there and like that page when you can, so you can follow along. We're on Twitter and we're on Facebook as well. And, at this point, we're just asking people to really learn about him and consider yourself ambassadors, right? You don't need anybody's permission to become an ambassador. You don't need anybody's permission to become an advocate. Like, just look and decide that you want to do something about this and share it with your family and friends. And then you can reach out to us over email, over the website, and we can, connect you to the larger coalition and kind of go from there. But we're just really grateful, Scott, for, the amount of energy that is around this and the amount of sincere support. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for the ways in which you've laid down your life. I'm a person of faith. I do a lot of ministry work. And, there's a place in the scripture that talks a lot about, the ones who will lay down their lives will find their lives. And in this, like, you know, there's been ways in which, you know, I've had to lay down my life in order to put the kind of energy and time. There's been other people that lay down their lives in particular ways. I know you've done that in so many ways in criminal justice reform, even before Julius. And, you know, it just kind of takes a step of faith. But, and there's a lot of people who've asked me over time, you know, why have you been willing to, like, put yourself on the line out here? Why you've been willing to take a risk? Faith is a risk. Like, you know, faith is a risk. Everything is a risk. And I'd rather take a risk and be wrong than sit back and potentially watch an innocent man be executed. I'd rather do that. So,
Cece, I know folks can go to Justice for Julius. How do folks follow you moving forward?
Yeah, so you can definitely go to Justice for Julius and all of his platforms to follow. You can follow me if you would like at Cece Jones-Davis on all the platforms. I post a lot about my work, about Julius Jones, etc. But we're just excited to have this new level of exposure, and we want to invite everybody out there to join us, be a part of our family, because it's going to take us all. It's going to take us all.
Thanks, Cece. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm Scott Budnick1 on Instagram. Obviously, thank you for following We Rep Justice and Represent Justice. This campaign is going to be working on overdrive in Oklahoma, both on behalf of Julius and much wider around criminal justice reform moving forward. We are hugely optimistic about Governor Stitt. This morning, he announced one of 3 governors in the country that has taken such bold steps around jailhouse informants. And when you see a Republican governor of such a conservative state like Oklahoma leading the nation in obvious smart on crime reform measures to achieve justice, that gives me a lot of hope. So I look forward to when the coronavirus is over, coming and seeing you in Oklahoma in
Absolutely.
person. Cece, thank you for everything you do. You are a hero.
Thank you, Scott.
Love everybody.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.